Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be about JMetro, which is a JavaFX team. So I'm going to say again, who am I? I don't know if there may be people that didn't see the presentation yesterday. So I'm Pedro Duque Vieira. My Twitter handle is P_Duque. I'm a freelance consultant. I'm a software engineer and a software designer. So I realized when I started to work that my passion was graphics. So I started to take design courses and courses on user experience, etc. I've been working professionally and focusing my work on apps with user interfaces for about 15 years. I like to do open source. On my spare time, I have a few I do a few projects like this one, JMetro, FX Ribbon. I've done contributions to Controls FX, JFXs, etc. I've worked with JavaFX since its very first version, which used JavaFX script. At the time, I was working on a Swing application, and I didn't have any way to integrate JavaFX because there was no component at the time to integrate JavaFX into a Swing application. So at the time, I created a component which was called JXSyn, which I contributed to JFXs. But and there was and I started to integrate the JavaFX scene into my Swing application. But then later, the JavaFX team released the JavaFX panel, which did exactly the same. So my component got obsolete. So that was my very first experience with JavaFX. You can reach me through pixelduque.com or through my email, pedro.duquevieira@pixelduque.com. So what is JMetro? JMetro is a free-to-use open source JavaFX team I've created. It's inspired, but not a copy of Microsoft's Fluent Design. It's not a copy because, for instance, there are controls in JavaFX that don't exist or are not specified in Microsoft's Fluent Design. Like, for instance, menus, at least at the time I created those styles, and tables, which is weird, but tables aren't specified. There's a data grid in a community project, but it's not official, not Microsoft. And also because there were some stuff I didn't particularly like, and I made it different. And also because controls in JavaFX don't have other properties that controls in WPF or the Microsoft's technologies don't have. It's not just CSS, not just the looks, it also changes the behavior of some controls through the skins API. But this is done behind the curtain, so the developer doesn't need to create new controls or worry about this. It has two styles, the dark and the light, so this is effectively two themes. So I'll show you some what I think some notable examples of applications that use JMetro, which are also notable examples of JavaFX applications. So this is a well-known application. It's not used by NASA. It's NASA's Deep Space Trajectory Explorer, which was created by Sean Phillips. It uses an older JMetro version. It's also an older application. Perhaps this one is lesser known. It's also used by NASA. It's called Trajectory Optimization Data Viewer, also created by Sean Phillips. It also uses an older JMetro version. This is an application I had a session yesterday about. It's called Hero. It's a CAD-like application, AutoCAD-like application. It's a CAD application. But its purpose is for doing specifically energy efficiency assessment. You can see the picture on the left. It's not that you can, some people ask, like, is it just you turn on JMetro and it looks like this? No, I think you always need to do some custom styling and add your own styles because there are controls that you want that don't exist in the JavaFX controls library or anywhere else, or Controls FX or and so on. This is another application I did for a client some time ago. It's called MetaScrap. It's an internet scrapper. It uses FX Ribbon, which is another free open source control I've made and I made available. It's a Microsoft Ribbon-like control for JavaFX. This is another set of applications that were created by Jamie McCauley. He had a very interesting session yesterday. So this is one of them. You can look at his site and see that it's a very nice site, and you can look at his work. Another very interesting application. It's a chess game. It has 3D also in it. It was created by John Sirek. I don't know how to pronounce that. There's also he also created PyDOM, which is a Duke's Choice Award winner, and PyDOM Enterprise application also uses JMetro. So the chess game uses a dark version and a light version. Also, you can choose between the JMetro Light or JMetro Dark. Other applications, and I'm sorry if I forgot to mention any application. On the top left, you have a 3D graphic calculator created by Saeed Norian using the JMetro Dark style. At the bottom, you have another chess game created by Dominic Klein using JMetro Light. And at the top right, you have an application I found on the internet. It also has some videos on YouTube. It also looks very nice. So why do I think you would use a JMetro? I think plain Modena without any styling, the default JavaFX theme feels outdated. You have to see that it was created almost 8 years ago. I think it will be 8 years now in the start of 2021. So it's not, like I said, it's not just the looks. JMetro also adds some interesting features to controls. Instead of creating new controls, it leverages the JavaFX skin API. So this means that it has a minimal API. You only really need to run one line of code, and you have JMetro set on your application. There's less coupling, so I don't create. There's no new controls. I could have created new controls with added features, but I use the same controls as JavaFX SDK. But through the skins APIs, I replace the skin and I add new features. It's also easier to start using because of this. You only need one line of code, and switching between teams becomes straightforward. You simply remove that one line of code, and you have your Modena team. Or you could, for instance, on Windows use JMetro, and decide on Mac you want to use another team. That's easy. It feels more integrated with the Windows team, which can be an advantage, since according to the last statistics that I saw, 80% to 90% of desktop users use Windows. Some statistics say 80, some say 90. It has a light and dark style, like I said. It's continuously being updated, at least it has been so for a long while. It also provides API to add Microsoft Fluent Design icons, which can be added for free, and you can use the API in JMetro to add them, as long as you are working in a Microsoft operating system or a Microsoft product, because these icons won't be available elsewhere, at least. So how do you use it? You only really need one line of code, which I have expanded to 2 lines in here. So you instantiate the JMetro class. You pass in the style, which could be light or dark. This can also be changed afterwards through the style property. And then you set the scene on JMetro instance. You can also set a parent if you want to just style a subset of your scene. Yeah, so the style can be dark and light. You should also ideally define everything that is a background in your application, so that JMetro can style it For instance, if you are using the dark style, JMetro can paint it with a dark color. If you're using the light style, JMetro can paint it with a light color. So here's an example. If you have a border pane and you add a tab pane to the top of the border pane, the border pane would be a good candidate for the background, for being a background. So you just need to add the style class background to the border pane. Another thing, if you want to add your own custom styles or write some of JMetro styles, you can use the method get overriding style sheets. It returns an observable list and you add your own style sheet. I think you can also, I haven't actually, after I've done this slide, I've thought a bit about it, but I think there's no problem if you also add your style sheet directly to the scene or to a parent. So like I said, controls, some controls have new features, and that means that those controls have new skins. And like, for instance, the slider that you can see here, it has a fill color that goes from the start to the place where the thumb is. And it also shows you a pop-up when you start dragging the thumb, showing the exact value that you're choosing. And that pop-up goes away once you stop dragging the thumb. So in this case, a new CSS property is added, among others, like in this example. The slider has now a show value on interaction CSS property that you can set either to true or false. And this makes the pop-up show or not show. And other controls have other CSS properties, so you should check that out. There's also the JMetro style class, which has a bunch of style classes that to further customize controls with the JMetro theme. Like, for instance, the tab pane default style you can see on the bottom left. That's the default style that JMetro adds to a tab pane. And on the bottom right, you can see the tab pane with another style. If you had the underline tab pane style class to it, that's in the JMetro style class. So you'll see the tab pane will be styled differently. And there are other style classes that you should check out in the JMetro style class. Some things to know: JMetro is not a user agent style sheet, so it's not like Modena. That means it's just another, and most, if not all, JFX teams that I know of, they use the same approach. Though I want to change that in the future in JMetro and make it a user agent style sheet as well. What this means is that since it's a regular style sheet, it will compete with the style sheets that you are using in your application. So ideally, you should Google CSS specificity, because if you want to override a JMetro rule, the specificity of your rule should be either equal or higher than JMetro rule. It also means that rules set through code, CSS styles in style sheets in JavaFX override the style set in code. So that's also another thing that you should note and see. So a few notes: it's available through JCentral and Maven Central, the documentation page. There's a blog post about, in my site, there's a bunch of blog posts that go into JMetro. If you want to do a deep dive, you can check out the Metro category on my site. And it's part of JFX, but it's in another repository called JFX styles. Okay, so that's it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hope
you enjoyed.
So there was at least one question. Give me a second. Here we go. So the question is, can you actually replace a complete style sheet without rebuilding JavaFX?
What do you mean, like changing the style live when the application is running?
Yeah, Daniel, maybe you can add some more information.
Yeah,
I understand it.
JFX allows you to
replace Modena CSS
specificity. It's also on the web. If you also check CSS specificity for web, the rules are exactly the same as JavaFX.
Okay, good. So if we go, like, there's another command.
Should I keep answering the question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Daniel asks if it can replace Modena CSS completely. So it's not a user agent style sheet, but I plan to do that. If it were a user agent style sheet, it would replace Modena completely. But now, as it stands now, it adds on top of Modena. So it's a style sheet on top of Modena.
Okay. So the question is, what is a user agent style sheet?
So a user agent style sheet, that's the same term they use on the web. It's a style sheet, and it also has to do with the priority. So a user agent style sheet is always going to be trumped by the rules you add to your own custom style sheet. So any rule you add to a custom style sheet will override a user agent style sheet. Also, rules set in code will override a user agent style sheet. This does not happen to a regular style sheet. If you set rules in code, they will not override your regular style sheet that you add to your scene, for instance.
Okay.
So ideally, JMetro could also start being a user agent style sheet, so it would be easier to override the rules and yeah.
Okay. Next question: Can I use JMetro styled components in the scene builder?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. You can surely copy all the style sheets that are there in JMetro and use them on scene builder. The problem I see, and I'm not sure if that will work, is the schemes. I'm not sure if scene builder will support the custom schemes that exist on JMetro.
Okay. Good. Perfect. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Pedro.
Thank you for Dirk and Henrik for organizing this awesome event.
Thanks.